Path to Recovered. Woo! Hi y'all, my name is Deanna Golden. I am the CEO and founder of the Path to Recovered, and today we have Caliann with us. Thank you for coming in. So this is our 11th podcast, officially, and today we're going to just be giving some questions to Caliann about her journey through recovery. She's kind of new, so I think you're probably one of the first people I've invited on the podcast that actually doesn't have more than a year of sobriety, and so I think that's like super important for people who are out there just starting the recovery program and looking to get sober, maybe new in recovery. I think you would have some insights that maybe some of us old timers forget about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's get into these questions. So first of all, how long have you been sober?
I've been sober for 4 months.
Yay. Awesome. Is that the longest you've ever been sober for?
It is not the longest, no. I think one time I had like 5.5 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're getting up on as much time as you had before and maybe extending past that. We're hoping so.
Yeah, definitely extending past that.
Yeah.
This is where it starts getting real for me, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it does for a lot of us. Getting that 6 months is the first hump, and then the 9 months is the really hard one I've seen, and then past that year. But you did great. I mean, we work together all the time, and I just feel like you're doing everything that you think that you need to do and continuing to pursue this. And I mean, even doing this podcast today, we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute, but you're starting to help people and starting to get out there, which is so important. And I think that's the main thing for like continuous sobriety, is just getting involved with other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree.
So tell me a little bit about what led you to wanting to get recovered. What was that kind of moment for you?
So, I was in LA, and I had about 5 months under my belt, and my friend looked at me. I'm at this party, and my friend looked at me, and he was like, "You can control it." And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I can control it. And so I drank at that party. I ended up wandering that morning on, fights started happening immediately. I was just on, I immediately started on that downward spiral.
Yeah, it wasn't better.
No, it wasn't. I mean,
it didn't work for you that time.
I felt a little bit of a release as far as like being able to talk and like have fun.
Yeah. But you didn't stop with that first one. And I think that's the important piece, is like, I think that my brain always used to tell me like, oh, I can just have a couple, feel that I'm going to relax and then I'll be good. But I don't stop at a couple. I keep going.
Yeah, for sure. I think at that point I even knew that like it was all or nothing.
Yeah.
Like I knew that like I was gonna drink to like pass out.
Yeah, once you started, you were
normal.
able to. Yeah, for sure. And so you get to this place, bad things happen that night. What's the next step that you take?
So then, I'm just like, I think I had like a week left in LA at that point.
Okay.
And so every day I was like just trying not to drink, or maybe drinking a little bit and then going and wandering and doing weird shit. But yeah, then I went back to Texas, and I was still, on that road, and I have a daughter that I take care of, and so I would drink for like 3 days or something on the week that I don't have her. Yeah. And then I would get it together whenever I got her until I couldn't.
Right. I think that it's easy to believe in our crazy mental obsession that that's a normal thing and that's okay. Right. Like I'll get it together for a couple of days and then, I'll go all out while I can. And that's the way that I'm going to live. But at some certain point for me, during that crazy madness cycle, because I was just like, dude, I can't do this. This is not something I want to do. And I know that you've expressed to me a few times that, your daughter's that, big thing that gave you that push that's like, I can't be like this in her life.
Yeah, it was one day whenever I had her, And my roommate actually went to go pick her up from daycare, and she comes back to the house, and I'm just trying to like hold on.
Yeah.
And I had to call my baby daddy and say, I'm not being a fit mom. Like, I can't, and so that's whenever I went into, like a program.
Yeah. Trying to get help. And thank God you did, right? Because, I think those are those pivotal moments when either we're going to keep going and just say, F it, essentially, and then I'm burning everything down. You could have lost your daughter, your baby daddy could have said, oh, okay, You're not getting her back.
Yeah.
Or some of those external consequences that we have. That big thing for me, unfortunately, was jail. I spent a lot of time, in jail and probation and all of those things that come with that too. And, a lot of those consequences. So it's great that you were able to kind of come to that realization and, use that willingness to get out there and change and do some different stuff.
Yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
awesome. And the thing is too, and that kind of leads me into that next question, is parenthood. Right? You have a lot of experience with bad parenthood, unfortunately, in your life. The next question is, with your childhood trauma and neglectful parents being a big part of your story, can you tell me how that affected you as an adult and played into your addiction?
Yeah, so a lot of my life, I thought my circumstances are why I needed to drink.
Yeah.
There was just so much inside of me that I couldn't deal with concerning my childhood. And that was like a big excuse, and it actually worked for me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is why I do it, and I'm going to continue to do it for that reason.
Yeah. And towards the end there, I found myself reaching out to these people, and like whenever I would drink, I would call them and I would be like, all the stuff that you did to me, all the bad stuff. And then they would just like hang up on me. Like nobody wanted to listen to me. And so I found that as like me trying to make them my God.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think there's this idea that, if somehow they would change and be different, you would be different. But that's not true today, right? Like,
that is not true today. Not at all.
You're the one who's changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's the piece in there too with you and your daughter, right? You had seen what your parents had done with you. You didn't want to do that as a mom yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're doing what it takes to change and be different. But also a cool thing happened, and you got that relationship back with your dad. So tell me a little bit about that.
So my dad he found God probably like in 2020. Nice. He's an extremist. So he took it, balls to the wall.
Yeah.
And that was like hard to deal with for a while.
Yeah.
But he's like seemed to calm down.
Yeah.
In that aspect. But he still is. He's really trying, and I know that our heritage, his parents and stuff really struggled. There was a lot of abuse in my family. And he kind of went down those like same footsteps, but he's trying. He's trying to change. Yeah. And so I see that, and like our relationship isn't like rainbows and butterflies.
Of course not. Yeah.
Yeah. He there was like a time last time that I saw him that I was like, whoa, but I know that what he does really doesn't affect me anymore. Right. I'm not needing his like approval or, I'm needing him to be something that he's not. Like I'm in control of Caliann, and, he's just where he's at, and that's good. There's not really like any more madness in our relationship. It just, we're just good, Well,
and that's the piece that God gives us, right? Is like that ability to be okay in any situation, no matter how the other person is. And I'm not saying it's like perfect all the time. It's not.
Right. It definitely takes work to get there, but it's definitely getting better every day.
For sure. And understanding that, people in our lives who hurt us are sick people too.
Exactly.
That took me a long time to understand and realize, is that that person may offend me and it may hurt me, and I may not like how they're behaving, but at the same time, like, why are they doing that? They're not doing it because of me. They're doing it because of something within them.
Exactly.
You know, and it's that acceptance around me saying, okay, well, they are who they are. They're not going to change for me. The only thing that I can do is, you know, maybe ask God to help change my perspective.
And you've told me that, you know, time and time again as I'm like calling you. And it's, like I said, it's taken time for it to like set in, but it's getting there where I'm like understanding it. And I'm just,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so next question. So one thing that you've done with your recovery journey is reach out for an extended intensive outpatient program, IOP, right? After you left that recovery center, you decided, you know what, I still need more, right? I want to learn more. I want to get more in touch with recovery and, you know, all of the things that have to do with that to help you. So tell me some of the tools that you acquired from continuing your education, and would you recommend that to other people in recovery?
Yes. So, I think recovery is about, you know, learning how to stay in the sunshine of the spirit, like how to be in that and be good. Me taking the outpatient program, I was able to come back and get plugged in a day a week. You know, I think it was like 3 hours that we would spend. And there was part of that program is like volunteering and giving back.
And really teaching you how to do that too. So, you know,
exactly.
It's like,
yeah, that was,
you don't know, like, I don't know about you, but I was like super scared to help people and to talk to people. And am I going to say the wrong thing, or am I going to be helpful? You know, are they going to get something out of this? And so, you know, I didn't do the intensive outpatient program, but I did stick really closely with my mentor and like really continued to ask her for help. And, you know, I started volunteering really early at treatment centers and halfway houses and detox centers, and really carrying the message there and sharing my experience, strength, and hope. And, you know, what I got from that was that same thing you just said, which was that learning experience of how I can be useful to other people, and really just having that purpose in life, right? And knowing like, okay, well, you know, what do I say to people? What do I do? You know, how do I do it? What are the things I focus on? And one piece that you touched on too is that like fellowship, which is so important. Being around people who are like me, I feel like especially early in sobriety is essential. But for me, I mean, I've been sober, 11 years, and it's still essential in my recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
What are some of the tools you think that you acquired in that program? So what are like kind of some of the things that you kind of, you're in your daily life today and you're using some of those tools that they taught you?
So I learned how to carry the message.
Okay. Yeah.
That was really cool. How to be a part of a community.
Teamwork, and maybe did they teach you some leadership in there too?
I would say so.
Lead a group.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like that's kind of your jam too, is like a little bit of leadership around, you know, kind of taking the lead and getting ladies involved and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like to say things, like I like to think, you know, I say things a little different, and like, you know, it's been fun like experimenting like where I can come from.
Yeah.
That maybe, you know, helps somebody get it like differently than what, you know, like the normal people are, what most people say in our
understanding
program, you know?
is huge.
Yeah.
I, you know, when I first started in the recovery program, like I didn't get it. I just didn't. I was like, what are these people talking about? Is this Spanish? I don't speak Spanish, right? Like I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And so you're right. Like being able to like really simplify it and go, listen, like this is my main problem, is that, you know, not only when I start drinking, I can't stop, but the fact is like when I'm stopped, like you said in your story, my brain leads me back to it every single time. You know, I can't stay stopped. I can't be happy in my own skin. I can't be comfortable without something externally making me comfortable, you know, and also some truth in that is that doesn't go away immediately. I know we've had some conversations about that recently. It's like, why do I still feel uncomfortable in situations? Well, you know, it's time, right? It's that time getting under my belt and understanding more of myself, God revealing more of me to myself.
So
you
true.
know, seeing those things that block me off, which is my fear mostly, right? But just really that progress on things getting better.
And I think whenever you do notice, you know, those things about yourself, that's part of the like growth experience. Like I've been uncomfortable in that. And I've been, you know, having FOMO around like going out and stuff like that. But noticing that in myself, whenever I do go out, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm prepared for this. You know, I've talked about this. I'm not just going out like, okay, let me test the waters and, you know, see what happens. Like I have in the past. Like now it's like a growing process. And like, that's the
kind of got your floaties on and get in the pool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I dive in head first, which is a huge deal. And it will, you know, what my experience is it took me, you know, I mean, years to know who I was, to feel comfortable within myself. And as time goes by, you know, that gets better. And the way that it gets better is me continuing to rely on God to give me that stuff.
And I feel that, and I believe that. You know what I mean? And it's happening in my life, and that is true to me now. You know?
Yeah,
so
it's your truth. And you can say it now because it's your truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is cool, you know, like getting out there and being like, dude, this works, but you got to keep going, moving forward, and you're taking action, which is so cool.
Yes.
All right, let's see what else. So if you had like one experience in recovery, if you could just pick one, or a spiritual experience, maybe something that you're like super grateful for, what would that be? And what would you like to share with someone who's still out there suffering from alcoholism right now?
So a spiritual experience that I had was just like day 3 of being sober. I prayed, and I was like really obsessed with like everything in my life, and I prayed, and like in that moment, like God stopped my thoughts, and like it was like visual to me, like the experience, you know, like how God really like came in that moment. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, you know. I'm on this road for sure, you know. I'm not going anywhere. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Set in stone kind of thing. Yeah.
And so, you know, God did that for me. It had to get really bad. So do I necessarily, I don't know if this is like bad to say, but do I feel bad for them for having to suffer in such a way right now? No, it's part of your story. Whenever you're ready, you're ready, and God will show you, you know, how to get out of it. For me, it had to get really bad for me to understand that I needed a program of recovery. Kind
of needs to be bad before you're there, is what you mean.
As sad as it is, like as embarrassing as it can be, as as much as you think that you're not going to get out of it, like sometimes you have to get into that spot to like realize that like this is what you need.
You need help.
Yeah.
And you know, that piece for you was doing what? Getting to that recovery program and asking for help and being willing to take some action. I mean, honestly, for me, that's all it was. It wasn't about, you know, anything else about recovery besides me being willing to ask for help, reach out my hand and go, okay, I don't know. Maybe I don't know everything, which was the huge thing for me, swallowing the pride and the ego and saying, man, you know, I need help with this thing. It's too much for me.
And that's what it says in some of the literature that I read. Sure. You know, like we can't do this by ourselves.
No.
And this is just the easier, softer way, and it's a great way of life. And I love it at this point, you know, like I get that relief. You know, that I was like searching for in drinking. I get that relief.
Such a powerful statement. Right? And it's freedom. What did I want from drinking the whole time? Freedom. From this.
From all of this stuff inside here that was just like tearing me apart all the time. Like
beautifully, you have it now.
Thank
you, girlie. I appreciate you being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
So if y'all are needing some help or looking for some resources, you can always go to our website, thepathtorocover.org. And if you need help don't wait. Reach out today, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.